Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to episode 53 of Codename Kids Next Door, Operation Naughty. We begin this episode with a comic book appearing on the screen. The Sector V operatives are featured on the cover of this comic book, and a narrator voiced by Tom Kenny using a Stan Lee impression begins to talk about an event that happened on a particular Christmas Eve. On this Christmas Eve, at the North Pole, inside Santa's workshop, we see the elves are putting on the finishing touches for the last of the toys intended for this year's Christmas delivery. The elves' voices are pitched up compared to the voices of the other characters in the show, and the elves are singing a song called Rainbow Christmas. It's essentially the Rainbow Monkeys song, except the lyrics are about Christmas rather than rainbow monkeys. However, there is one elf who isn't singing. This elf has a candy cane in his mouth in a way similar to how someone might have a toothpick or a cigar in their mouth. Another elf calls the elf with the candy cane in his mouth Wintergreen, and this other elf inquires Wintergreen about why he isn't singing. Wintergreen says that Santa requested that Wintergreen keep an eye on things, and Wintergreen says that singing isn't in the job description. Suddenly, the elves hear some guests at the door, so one of the elves cheerfully volunteers to answer the door. Upon opening the door, the elf cheerfully invites the guests inside for some eggnog, but the guest's response is to use a tranquilizer dart on the elf, which naturally renders the elf unconscious. The intruders are revealed to be the Sector V operatives, but they're wearing gas masks, they're not talking, and they're huddled together in some kind of formation. Most of the elves, however, are not alarmed by this. Quite the contrary, most of the elves still act cheerful, and they act like the Sector V operatives are guests rather than intruders. Yes, we see some of the elves cheerfully complimenting the tranquilizer darts, some of the elves cheerfully saying Merry Christmas, and some of the elves cheerfully pointing out their locations to the Sector V operatives, so all of the elves end up being hit with the tranquilizer darts. Wintergreen was the only elf who didn't act cheerful towards the Sector V operatives, but he was hit with multiple tranquilizer darts before he had the chance to fight. So the Sector V operatives then activate a secret elevator in the fireplace, and they head to the basement, which takes them to a hallway. There's one elf in the hallway who sternly says that they shouldn't be in the basement, but cheerfully says Merry Christmas. But then she is hit with the tranquilizer darts from the Sector V operatives too. So the Sector V operatives head to the door on the other side of the hallway. This leads to a chamber that's shaped like a sphere, and there's a single snowy catwalk with Santa's sleigh at the end of the catwalk. Santa gets out of his sleigh to figure out what's going on, but he's hit with a tranquilizer dart, which renders him unconscious, and he drops his sleigh bells onto the ground. The opening theme song is slightly different for this episode. The background is green, there's falling snow while the opening theme song is playing, and the show's logo has a Christmas theme to it. So after the opening theme song, when the episode resumes, we see the Sector V operatives are in a flying 2x4 technology vehicle, and they're on their way back to the Sector V treehouse. The Sector V operatives make comments about how they've been somewhere for quite some time now, and number 3 says that that wherever it was they were, or yes, number 3 said that their prior location was the only place where she could get the present that she intended to give number 4. Number 4 is very excited to hear that number 3 got him something, and he's curious to figure out what this something is. But number 3 says that number 4 needs to be patient. He has to wait until Christmas Day when all of the Sector V operatives exchange gifts with each other. Number 4 notably becomes nervous when he hears this, and he begins to eat some French fries. Number 3 figures that number 4 forgot to get her a present, and she sadly inquires if number 4 likes her or not. Number 5 takes a chance to tease number 4 about this, but number 4 changes the subject by saying, why should they concern themselves about exchanging gifts with each other? Santa is the one who gives gifts on Christmas. But number 3 says that friends exchanging gifts on Christmas is a tradition, and she says that number 4 will have to watch while the other Sector V operatives exchange gifts with each other. But then number 1, number 2, and number 5 all have nervous and embarrassed looks on their faces. Number 3 figures that they forgot to get presents too for others. Number 1, number 2, and number 5 all try to, in an embarrassed manner, try to explain why they forgot, but then number 1 tries to change the subject when he says that they're about to land at the Sector V treehouse. Number 3, though, takes everything in good stride. She does comment about how it's better to give than to receive. But when all the Sector V operatives exit their flying vehicle, they find that the treehouse, or the majority of the treehouse, is gone. There's just a stump of the treehouse that's still coming from the house, from the Uno home. And number 2 comments that the tree is, I believe he says 560 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And number 1 is in despair that someone has cut the Sector V treehouse again, and he questions who was responsible this time around. And then that's when Wintergreen makes his presence known to the others. Or yes, that's when Wintergreen makes his presence known to the Sector V operatives. This time, however, Wintergreen is wearing a costume that could essentially be described along the lines of a Christmas-themed version of Wolverine from X-Men's costume. Wintergreen comments that he's here for the present that number 3 has. He says that the Sector V operatives took something important from Santa, and he intends to reclaim the reindeer. Number 3, though, tries to shush Wintergreen, saying that commenting about the reindeer will give away the surprise to number 4. Wintergreen, though, says that they don't have much time left. They need to reclaim the reindeer before Christmas Eve ends, before Christmas formally begins, and they need to get the reindeer back quickly. Number 3 still refuses to hand over the present to Wintergreen, but Wintergreen doesn't mind. He actually says that he was hoping to do things the hard way. And then we find out that Wintergreen is not alone. 3 other elves have come with Wintergreen to take the present that number 3 has. So a fight breaks out between these 4 elves and the Sector V operatives. While the fight is going on, we do get some scenes in comic book form, and the narrator explains the brief description about these. Yes, the narrator gives us some brief insight on these 4 elves. These elves form a team called the Elfa Strike Squad, and they're meant to be a reference to the X-Men. And these 4 elves are 4 superpowered elves. They work like a superhero team to help Santa out. So yes, Wintergreen Wintergreen is a reference to Wolverine, not just in costume, but he also has Wintergreen can create claws from his hands too, but they're candy cane claws. And Wintergreen has a skeleton that's made out of essentially candy cane. They describe it along the lines of peppermintanium or something like that. But besides Wintergreen, there's also Nutcracker. His head is shaped like a nutcracker, like the name would suggest, and he has teleporting powers like Nightcrawler. The third member is Snow Angel. She's a reference to both Storm and Angel. She controls snow. Her powers are snow-based. Snow manipulation. And then the fourth member is Coniferous. He's meant to be a reference to Colossus, and he can create pine tree or evergreen armor, essentially. So during the fight, number 3 eventually manages to overpower all of the Elfa Strike Squad, and she's very determined that they're not going to take number 4's present. Wintergreen then decides that there's no choice but to activate their ultimate attack. He actually admits to himself that he'd hate to use the attack on number 3, but he says that they are pressed for time. The narrator explains that once every 1,000 Christmases, the Elfa Strike Squad can use their ultimate attack. So this ultimate attack is called the 12 Days of Christmas attack, and like the name would suggest, it's a weaponized version of the 12 Days of Christmas song. Although while the attack is going on, we do get to see some fun with the wordplay, or visual puns or wordplay are going on while the 12 Days of Christmas attack occur. So after number 3 is hit with the 12 Days of Christmas attack, Wintergreen takes the present and says that they'll be returning the gift to Santa after they stole it from him. But number 3 responds that she didn't steal the present, she bought it, and she intended to give it to number 4. Wintergreen simply comments Wintergreen questions what number 4 could possibly use with the reindeer. And so, Wintergreen uses his candy cane claws to break open the present, and he's surprised to see, he and the rest of his teammates, for that matter, are surprised to see that the present was actually the Secret Santa Surprise Reindeer Monkey, or something along those lines anyway. Essentially, it's a rainbow monkey toy with some reindeer theme to it. Number 4 is frustrated that his present ended up just being a rainbow monkey toy, but number 5 angrily says that number 3's gift is more than number 4 got number 3. Number 4 angrily counters, how does number 5 know that he, number 4, didn't get number 3 a present? Snow Angel points out that the Secret Santa Surprise Reindeer Monkey is only available in a very specific Rainbow Monkey store on Christmas Eve each year. And this leads to the Elfa Strike Squad realizing that the Sector V operatives couldn't have been at the North Pole if they'd been in this particular Rainbow Monkey store all day. Number 5 does confirm that, yes, they've been at the Rainbow Monkey store all day trying to get the reindeer monkey. So Nutcracker inquires who really has the reindeer, who were the imposters, or the ones impersonating the Sector V operatives. So we head back to the Sphere Chamber at the North Pole, and we see that Santa is now, there's some kind of chain around Santa's torso. It's meant to keep his arms in place. So Santa can only stand up, but he can't use his arms because of this restriction chain around his torso. But we see the imposter Sector V operatives when they remove their gas masks. We find out that the imposters are none other than the delightful children from down the lane, and they inquire if Santa is ready for them to proceed. Santa calmly comments that Santa calmly inquires if the delightful children have come to get their coal early for this Christmas, but the delightful children respond by saying that this Christmas will be different from previous Christmases. Santa's response is, in a snarky manner, to question if the delightful children are going to be good kids this year instead of in his words, evil, conniving brats. The delightful children are notably angered by this. They insist that they are good children. They're much better than every other kid who celebrates Christmas in the world, and they'll prove this by getting all the presents while every other kid who celebrates Christmas will just get coal. And they'll use Santa's own reindeer, and we find out that they're holding the sleigh bells that Santa dropped near the beginning of the episode. Santa, though, tries to warn them about doing this. Santa says that only he's able to use the reindeer properly. The reindeer will cause nothing but trouble for the delightful children. The delightful children brush off this warning, just questioning how hard could using the reindeer possibly be. So they enter Santa's sleigh. Santa calmly but very seriously warns them again, don't use the reindeer. They don't know what power that they plan to play with, or he says something along those lines anyway. The delightful children's response is along the lines about how they're happy with playing with any kind of power, and then they push Santa off the catwalk, and Santa's still trying to warn them, don't use the reindeer. So the delightful children then prepare to use the reindeer, and the narrator begins to explain what the reindeer are for us, the viewers. The narrator explains that Santa isn't getting any younger, so he decided to become more high-tech rather than rely on the old reindeer and sleigh system that he used in the past, the traditional sleigh and reindeer. The sleigh bells, the reindeer system, allow him to connect his sleigh with, the reindeer system allows a cybernetic connection between Santa's sleigh and all of the Christmas trees of all the kids who celebrate Christmas in the world. And by using this cybernetic connection, Santa is able to instantly deliver presents or coal to all the Christmas celebrating kids in the world. It's just a matter of determining which kids are nice and which are naughty. So while this is happening, we also see the sphere lighting up, and the sphere reveals that there's multiple screens, and they're all of the Christmas celebrating kids in the world. And so this is how Santa determines who's nice and who's naughty. The delightful children, so after the explanation is finished, the delightful children have set the reindeer system up. So they light up their own square. Yes, the delightful children light up their own square to represent nice, and then they make the other screens go dark to represent naughty. And while this is happening, we see presents being replaced by coal at several Christmas trees, or around several Christmas trees, while we see the presents are being sent to the Christmas tree at the delightful children's mansion. Eventually, the Sector V operatives and the Elfa Strike Squad are in the hallway just outside of the reindeer chamber to prepare to fight the delightful children. The delightful children, though, keep their composure, and they say that there's going to be a lesson plan for them. Someone else, a different voice at the other end of the hallway, comments about substitute teachers, and then the door to the reindeer chamber closes. And the Sector V operatives and the Elfa Strike Squad see a woman who calls herself N.A.U.G.H.T.Y, and she says that she is the official representative for Substitute Teachers Day. And apparently she really hates Christmas because she thinks that Christmas takes away attention from Substitute Teacher Day. She says that her point is proven when number 2 sincerely questions that there really is a Substitute Teachers Day. So N.A.U.G.H.T.Y formed an alliance with the delightful children from down the lane. This alliance involved them getting rid of Christmas, except for the part where the delightful children claim all the presents. But essentially, N.A.U.G.H.T.Y is under the impression that if they get rid of Christmas, then Substitute Teacher Day will be the most important holiday of the year. Number 3, though, questions about Groundhog Day. Number 4 points out the 4th of July, but he calls it the 4th of August by mistake. And then Snow Angel comments about how she likes Flag Day. N.A.U.G.H.T.Y, though, brushes off these comments, and she summons her fellow substitute teacher representatives to attack. So the Elfa Strike Squad begin to fight the Faculty Four. That's what these this other super-powered holiday team consists of, or that's the group name. So while the fight is going on, we do get some comic book scenes here or there with the narrator explaining the names and a brief description of the Faculty 4 members. So the Faculty 4 members consist of the Thesaurus Rex, the Unintelligible Tutor, the Human Text, and the Physically Fitastic, or Mr. Physically Fitastic. That's the names of the Faculty 4 members. So after those descriptions and comic book scenes, Wintergreen tells the Sector V operatives that they need to go to stop the Delightful Children. The Elfa Strike Squad will fight the Faculty 4. Number 1, though, comments or questions how are they going to get inside with the door sealed up. Wintergreen comments about how they should use the chimney, and then he tosses Number 1 to get them going so that they can stop the Delightful Children. So while the Sector V operatives try to follow Wintergreen's advice or suggestion for how they get inside, we see the Delightful Children continuing to mark the other screens for the kids try to mark the other screens with the naughty lighting. And we do see more and more presents going to the Delightful Children's mansion. Some of the presents actually end up just outside of the mansion around the yard. So eventually, the Sector V operatives break through the ceiling of the reindeer chamber, but when they come face to face with the Delightful Children, they're horrified by what they saw, or what they see. The Delightful Children's faces now, essentially, they resemble the Grinch. That's the best way I can think to describe it. So the Delightful Children's faces look like the faces of the Grinch, and they seem to be in pain. They're actually pleading for the Sector V operatives to help them. Meanwhile, out in the hallway, we see Wintergreen, Nutcracker, Snow Angel, and Coniferous were able to defeat the Faculty 4. And N.A.U.G.H.T.Y threatens to call the Arbor Day Avengers, I think that's what she calls them, for backup. But the Sector V operatives exit the chamber. So yes, and they have the Delightful Children with them, who are now defeated, and they no longer look like the Grinch. Number 2 comments about how the Delightful Children won't be getting presents this year, but Number 4 tries to tell Number 2 not to bring up not getting presents with Number 3 around. But then the Sector V operatives, or the 4 present Sector V operatives, I should say, realize that Number 3 is not with them. Number 3 is still in the reindeer chamber, and she's amazed by the reindeer system. She figures that maybe she can deliver even more presents to all of her friends. But when Number 3 touches the reindeer system, she's become corrupted. She comments about how she will take the presents. So she activates the reindeer system. Oh, and the ceiling's fixed up, by the way. The hole in the ceiling, it's not there anymore. It's all fixed up. But in any case, yes, Number 3 reactivates the present delivery system, and then she lights up her own screen with the nice light and then darkens out the other screens for the naughty list. And Number 3 starts to go on a rant about how she deserves everything for being the only person to think about others, and she starts to rant about how everyone else couldn't bother to get presents. So yes, the reindeer system has corrupted Number 3. Number 4 watches from the glass from the door, horrified by what's happening. But then Santa makes his presence known. The Elfa Strike Squad and the Sector V operatives are amazed that Santa's okay. He looks to be a little battle damaged, but otherwise he's still otherwise no worse for wear or however you say that. Edna Education also acts annoyed at how they're all struck by Santa. So Santa manages to actually rip the door open and throws it aside, and he tells number 4 that number 4 is the only one who can help number 3. Number 4 knows what needs to be done. Number 4, though, inquires if there is another way. Santa's response is essentially, if there was another way, would Santa really have number 4 be taking care of this? Number 5 then pushes number 4 into the reindeer chamber, saying that they gotta hurry. So number 4 walks up to number 3. He tries to get her attention. First he says number 3, but then he calls her kooky. And eventually, though, yes, number 3 does eventually hear number 4, but number 3 has the Grinch look on her face now, and she doesn't seem very happy. So number 4 simply holds out a wrapped present and says Merry Christmas to number 3. She's surprised that number 4 got her a present. Number 4 admits that he intended to surprise number 3 on Christmas Day, but given what happened right now, the surprise has to come early. So number 3 opens the present, and she seems to be angry. She questions that number 4 got her French fries. Number 4 explains that he got them, he had some extra French fries that he didn't finish when they were at the Rusty Burger earlier, and figured number 3 would like them. Number 3 seems to be angry, and she's about to comment about what this present is like, but then suddenly, number 3 is back to her usual self. She's no longer corrupted, and she comments that this is the sweetest gift that she ever received from number 4, or she says something along those lines at least. She begins to hug number 4, saying that okay, this was the only gift number 4 ever got her, but she's not counting, and she continues to hug number 4. Santa then enters the reindeer chamber, tells them to, in his words, take it under the mistletoe. He has to wrap up the Christmas delivery in 5 minutes, and he encourages the Sector V operatives to return to the Sector V treehouse. So the Sector V operatives leave, or they prepare to leave. But number 3 at first stops. She's trying to apologize to Santa, but she can't quite form the sentences that she wants to say. But Santa calmly assures number 3 that he understands, and then he tries to reach for one of the French fries. Number 3 swats Santa's hands and tells him to get his own French fries. Santa tries to compromise for at least one French fry, but number 3 is like, nope, these are my French fries. Santa's a little bummed out about this. So the rest of the Sector V operatives are saying their goodbyes to the Elfa Strike Squad, and Wintergreen apologizes on behalf of the team for the confusion and the misunderstanding that happened earlier. Number 1, speaking on behalf of the Sector V operatives, assures him that it's water under the bridge now, but he still wants to know what happened to his treehouse. Or yes, the Sector V treehouse, I should clarify. And Wintergreen assures number 1 that the Elfa Strike Squad put it to good use. And then we see, yes, the Sector V treehouse is now, it's by a skating rink that's in the middle of a city. Afterwards, we head back to the comic book form, and then the comic book closes, and the narrator wishes the viewers a Merry Christmas. Next up, we head to number 3's room at the Sector V treehouse. Number 3 is reorganizing her room a little bit so that she can have room at the top of her dresser. She places the French fries. She places the French fries on top of the dresser, and then she smiles with some red on her face, and then she walks off. Shortly afterwards, number 4 enters number 3's room. He starts to eat some of the French fries, then he takes the rest of them, and he leaves number 3's room. And that's how we end this episode. So there you go. This is not only the season 5 premiere and the first full episode of season 5, but it's also the series' Christmas episode. Now, I should clarify something. Originally, when this episode first aired, this was actually not the first season 5 episode to air on TV. This aired later on, or after a few other season 5 episodes had aired. Now, with regards to the air date order and production order for the first 4 seasons, I kept seeing mixed answers about if the air date order and the production order lined up with regards to most of the episodes for seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4. But because of that, I ultimately just opted for the air date order for the first 4 seasons because I couldn't really figure out because of those contradicting details. But with regards to season 5 and season 6, there seems to be more of a consistent case of where some of the production order episodes aired out of order. And season 5 seems to be, Operation N.A.U.G.H.T.Y seems to be an example of this. Operation N.A.U.G.H.T.Y was not the first season 5 episode to air, but from what I was able to gather, the production code seems to suggest that this is actually the season 5 premiere. Some other hints I noticed is in the writing credits for this episode, Mo Willems is credited as the co-writer alongside Tom Warburton. And Mo Willems was the co-writer for the first 4 seasons of Codename Kids Next Door. Season 5 was when he began his career with writing children's books. Operation Maurice was meant to reference that detail about how Mo Willems would not be a regular crew member for the show, although he would eventually return to co-write for the TV movie. Now, I bring up Mo Willems' credit in this episode because for the other episodes in season 5, the credits list the co-writer alongside Tom Warburton as the head writer who took over after Mo Willems had left, or the co-head writer who took over after Mo Willems had left the show. Andy Reingold, if I'm not mistaken. So Andy Reingold is credited for the other season 5 episodes, but Mo Willems is credited with Operation N.A.U.G.H.T.Y. So yes, between the consistency I've seen with the production code, Mo Willems' credit in this episode, and actually with the most recent reruns. Yes, a few years ago when the show was airing reruns, Operation N.A.U.G.H.T.Y was the first season 5 episode that would air when the reruns reached season 5. So yes, all of those factors give me the impression that Operation N.A.U.G.H.T.Y is meant to be the season 5 premiere. So that's why I'm treating it as the season 5 premiere for my recap and thoughts video. So I know that was a bit of a tangent, but I figured it was necessary to kind of just clear up any possible confusion for any possible viewers of this video. So hopefully that clears up any confusion and helps to clarify why I'm treating Operation N.A.U.G.H.T.Y as the season 5 premiere. But in any case, yes, so this was the Christmas episode for Codename Kids Next Door. Even though we have had some snow-themed entries in the past, and we may still get some snow-themed entries in the future, I'll have to have my memory refreshed while rewatching the rest of the series. But in any case, yes, this was the Christmas episode. And we have had a holiday entry before, Operation Tricky for Halloween, but Operation Tricky was a segment rather than a full episode. And on one of his blog posts, Tom Warburton Tom Warburton did clarify that, yes, Elfa Strike Force, or the Elfa Strike Squad, the Elfa Strike Squad were indeed meant to be references to the X-Men. And he says this is because in this blog post, Tom Warburton revealed that he became a fan of X-Men when he was in the 7th grade. So not only was this a Christmas episode, but this was essentially a love letter to X-Men. So that was, where the X-Men references came from. And yes, the Faculty Four were meant to reference the Fantastic Four, but naturally they were a villainous example or a villainous counterpart, since the Fantastic Four are heroes rather than villains. Although in this blog post, this same blog post, Tom Warburton did reveal that originally the Faculty Four were going to be the Secretary Squad, and I think the Secretary Six might have been brought up too in one of the blog posts. But the Secretary Squad is what he mentioned in one of these blog posts. And Tom Warburton did say that, yes, originally the team that was going to fight the Elfa Strike Squad were going to be a reference to Secretary Day. They were going, yes, the Secretary Squad were supposed to be resentful over how Secretary Day gets overlooked a lot. However, the executives told the staff and crew members that they didn't think that kids were going to really get the jokes around Secretary Day or really know what secretaries did. So they ended up going with Substitute Teacher Day for a reference that they felt kids would understand the jokes for more, or something along those lines anyway. But yes, that explains... Yes, so originally the Faculty Four were going to be the Secretary Squad, and Secretary Day was originally going to be the opposing holiday team. And otherwise, yes, the other detail for this episode would be, continuing with the X-Men theme, number 3 being corrupted by the reindeer is meant to reference some iconic storylines from X-Men, the Phoenix Saga and the Dark Phoenix Saga. So that's what number 3's corruption was a reference to. And and like I said, I get the feeling that the green furry faces from anyone corrupted by the reindeer was probably a reference to the Grinch. It makes sense anyway. But yes, that was definitely a pretty intense. Or speaking of the reindeer system though, I thought that was a really clever idea. That actually is a pretty... I liked the reindeer system. That actually is a pretty clever way to go around the idea of how Santa... Yeah, I thought that was a clever approach for the idea of how Santa delivers all of the presents and coal for all the Christmas celebrating kids in the world through Christmas Eve. The reindeer system definitely is a very effective explanation for that, while also being a reference to X-Men. And yeah, I did like Santa's portrayal in Codename Kids Next Door. He was definitely a very powerful and also very calm individual, but he still had moments of humor, like when he tried to compromise to get a French fry from number 3, but it didn't work. But I did like how Santa was portrayed here, and it was pretty satisfying to see him actually call out the Delightful Children for being brats and evil. Although, yes, the Delightful Children's anger at Santa calling them evil brats and their insistence that they're good children was also pretty amusing, because it's another example of the Delightful Children being not so above it all, if you will. So that was I did like I liked Santa's portrayal here, and I did like how the Delightful Children's motive kind of again showed them in a not so above it all light. And yeah, I did like the foreshadowing they did with the fact that the Delightful Children were impersonating the Sector V operatives, not just because they didn't talk, but also because they were huddled together in a formation like the Delightful Children are known to do. So that was definitely some clever foreshadowing. And I did like there was a continuity nod with number 1 getting angry at the treehouse being removed from the trunk that was growing from the Uno home. He got angry when number 86 and the decommissioning squad did that in Operation End. And so I did like the reference to that. And this was definitely a fun episode. So I went on a little bit there, but this was definitely a very big episode, the Christmas episode. And like I said, I like the superhero references to Marvel. I liked Santa's portrayal here. And I did like the moments for the number 3 and number 4 pairing. But otherwise, yes, I believe that's about it now. So as of this video, we've now discussed episode 53 of Codename Kids Next Door on this channel. Take care, and until next time.